Good evening, fifth graders. Tonight we're going to be working a little more with circumference. We're going to be finding the area of a circle. A little bit of review before we get going here. The diameter. The diameter of a circle is the distance from one side to the other. A lot of times you'll be seeing diameter is a big D inside the formula or the equation, okay? That's your diameter, distance from here to here. So if I have a diameter of 10, that means half of 10 would be 5. So the distance from here to here would be 5. And that is what we call the radius. A lot of times when we see radius inside a formula, it's a small r. This is our radius. So if my diameter is 10, my radius will be a 5. If my radius is 5, my diameter is 10. So let's say my radius is a 12. If my radius is a 12, that means my diameter would have to be 24. Not 124, 24. I'm hoping that makes sense as a little review here. Circumference is the distance around the circle, also known as your perimeter. Of a circle, the distance around. The other thing we learned is whenever we see this symbol right here, this means pi, which represents 3.14. So when you notice we were finding the ratios of the circumference and diameter, it would equal close to 3.14 in class the other day. This is where we're going with it. Pi is really important, where you'll be using this symbol a lot. Whenever you see this symbol, it means 3.14. So let's take a look at some equations here. If we're trying to find the circumference of a circle, okay, we're going to be doing pi times d. Pi means 3.14. Circumference means the distance around the circle. And we're doing the area. Pi, which is 3.14, times radius squared. So if we jump back here, radius squared 12 would be 12 times 12, which would be 144. So it'd be 3.14 times 144 for that last area. Let's do a couple examples here today. My diameter is 25 centimeters. So what is my circumference? Well, let's take a look. The circumference is pi times diameter. So we're going to be going 3.14 times 25, which is my diameter. Let's use a calculator to speed this up. 3.14 times 25 equals 78.5. That is my circumference. Now it's perimeter, so we don't have to do centimeters squared. Now what is the area of this circle? Well, if the diameter is 25, we have to do 25 divided by 2 to find out what half of this is. 12.5. 12.5 is my radius. So finding the area of this circle, we'd have to do, sorry, I'm jumping around. Area is 3.14 times radius squared. Well, if 12.5 is my radius, I'm going to have to go 0.5 to the second power here, and then 3.14 times 12 to the second power. And this is how I solve this. I solve this in two different parts because this is where kids get confused. Because a lot of times kids see 12.5 times 2 and they get 25. Then 3.14 times 25. Well, if they do that in this section, kids, take a look. You'll get the circumference. It's different. So area is 12.5 to the second power. So that would equal 12.5 times 12.5, which equals 156.25. 156.25. So we'll go 3.14 times 156.25. Do you see how area is much larger? 156.25 times 3.14 equals 490.625. 490.625 is my area. And that would be centimeters squared. Let's do another one here. All right, we'll try this one. The radius is 10 centimeters. So how do we find the circumference of a shape again? Let's take a look. I believe it was d times 3.14. So d times 3.14, remember 3.14 times d. Well, if r is 10, if this is 10, let's go 10, and then this distance right here would be 10. So it'd be 10 plus 10, which is 20. Hopefully you kids notice how I did that. This is 10. This right here is 10. So 3.14 times 20. I'll take out my calculator. 62.8 is the circumference. Now my area is 3.14 times radius squared, which is 10 to the second power. Right? That would be radius squared. The nice thing we know is 3.14 times, and then 10 times 10 would be 100. So 3.14 times 100. 314. Now, would I had to use a calculator for that? I have 2 zeros here. I could have moved this 2 spots to get 314 as well. Centimeters squared. One more example here, kids. My diameter, so we're back to diameter. So circumference is 3.14 times diameter. So in this case, it would be 3.14 times 24. 3.14 times 24. 78.3 or 75.36 is my circumference. Now, when you're thinking area, remember, this is a little more of a process. 3.14 times radius squared. So always remember that finding the area is a two-step process with the multiplication. Okay, I'm going to write out the problem. So if my diameter is 24, half of my diameter would be 12. Twelve to the second power. It's 3.14 times 12 to the second power. So the two-step problem, what I'm trying to say is, I'm going to go 3.14 times 12 times 12 is 144. So that's the first step. I want to find out what the radius squared is. Please don't make 24 as your radius squared. Because if you put 24 as your radius squared, guess what? You end up with this. So you'll notice that you'll get, if you have the same answer for your circumference and your area, you're probably doing it incorrectly. Okay? Now let's go ahead and multiply these. 3.14 times 144 equals 452.16. Now I just got done saying that if your circumference and area are exactly the same, you probably did this radius squared incorrectly. Like if I got 24 here, it'd mean the same as this. But this is the one exception. Let's take a look here. If my diameter is 4, it'd be 3.14 times 4 for my circumference, which would be 3.14 times 4 equals 12.56 as my circumference, which is my perimeter of the circle. And also another thing to think about, if my 3.14 times r squared, well, what is 3.14 times 2 squared? Keep watching this, kids. 3.14 times 4. Wouldn't it? 2 squared would be the same thing as that. So this is the one exception because look, these are exactly the same, which means my area and my circumference would be the same. Quick recap. To find the circumference, pi times diameter, which is 3.14 times whatever the diameter is. Area is pi times whatever the radius is. So if the radius is half the diameter, squared. This is how you solve it. Remember, area is where you're going to do centimeters squared, inches squared, and that's how you solve these. Sorry if this was a little bit of a boring video. I'm not trying to make it boring. I'm trying to explain it in a simple way because I've seen it over the years where kids tend to struggle with this. Remember this, circumference is easier to solve than area. Area has one more step of multiplication, and that's this radius squared. Good luck, kids. I hope when you're solving these problems in class tomorrow, you take your time and you write it out just like I did in all of my examples. And yes, you'll be able to check with a calculator tomorrow as well. Good luck. I look forward to working with area and circumference of circles tomorrow.